Once support is on the table in a California divorce, one form does most of the heavy lifting. This is where the court looks first. This is Form FL-150. It's where the court gets a detailed picture of what each party earns, spends, owns, and owes. Let's walk through it section by section. FL-150 asks each party to lay out, in detail, their employment information and income from all sources, their tax filing status and certain deductions, their average monthly expenses, and a summary of their assets. It's one of the core financial disclosure forms in a California family law case, alongside Form FL-142, the Schedule of Assets and Debts. Together, these two forms give the court the financial picture it needs to rule on support and later on how property gets divided. Generally, both parties file an FL-150 whenever child support or spousal support is at issue. That includes early in the case as part of the mandatory financial disclosures, whenever either party requests a new support order or asks to modify an existing one, and before a judgment can be entered in most cases involving support. Because support can come up more than once, you may end up filing more than one FL-150 over time, and each one should reflect your current picture, not numbers carried over from an earlier filing. Here's why accuracy on this form matters so much. California calculates guideline child support using a formula that relies heavily on each parent's gross income, tax filing status, and certain allowable deductions, and nearly all of those inputs come directly from FL-150. Spousal support looks at a broader set of factors, but the numbers on this form are still central to that analysis too. Outdated or inconsistent figures can lead to a support order that doesn't reflect your actual situation, and fixing it later can mean going back to court. Let's go through what you'll actually fill in. Section 1 is employment and income. You'll report your employer, job title, and pay rate, along with your gross income before taxes and deductions from your job. The form asks you to break it down by pay period, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, and convert it to a monthly average, since support calculations rely on a monthly figure. If you hold more than one job or your hours change from period to period, report each source separately and show your math for how you got to that average. The court wants a realistic, sustainable number, not your best or worst pay period. Section 2 covers income from other sources: self-employment income, bonuses, commissions, or overtime, rental income, investment or dividend income, retirement, pension, or Social Security income, and other recurring income. If you're self-employed or your income varies month to month, the form expects you to describe how you calculated your figure, and generally to average it over a representative period rather than reporting one unusually high or low month. Section 3 asks for your tax filing status: single, head of household, married filing separately, and so on, along with certain deductions that affect the guideline calculation, like mandatory retirement contributions, union dues, and health insurance premiums you pay. These deductions can meaningfully change your support number, so report them carefully and back them up with your pay stubs or tax return where you can. Section 4 is average monthly expenses. You'll list your typical costs across common categories: rent or mortgage and other housing costs, utilities, food and household supplies, transportation, including car payments, gas and insurance, health insurance and out-of-pocket medical costs, childcare and children's expenses, and installment payments and other recurring debts. These figures should reflect your typical ongoing costs, not a single unusual month. If something varies seasonally or only comes due a few times a year, average it out over 12 months. Section 5 is assets. This section summarizes things like cash, bank accounts, and other property. It works alongside, not instead of, the more detailed asset and debt reporting on Form FL-142. Report your figures as of a consistent, recent date, and note that date on the form so the court knows exactly when the snapshot was taken. FL-150 isn't considered complete on its own. It generally needs to be filed with supporting documents attached, recent pay stubs, commonly the last 2 months, showing your gross income and deductions, a copy of your most recent tax return, or the first 2 pages of it, unless a local rule says otherwise, and documentation supporting any self-employment or irregular income, like profit and loss statements if that applies to you. FL-150 and FL-142 are meant to tell the same financial story from 2 different angles, one focused on income and expenses, the other on assets and debts. The numbers on both should line up. A bank account, an asset, or a debt payment that shows up on one form shouldn't conflict with what you reported on the other. Filling out both forms together rather than weeks apart is one of the easiest ways to keep them aligned. The mistakes that show up most often: using outdated income figures instead of your current pay rate and hours, forgetting to attach recent pay stubs and a tax return, understating expenses to look more sympathetic, or overstating them to reduce a support obligation, both of which can undermine your credibility with the court, reporting self-employment or bonus income from a single month instead of a representative average, leaving deductions blank that you're actually entitled to claim, and inconsistencies between FL-150 and FL-142, like an asset that shows up on one form but not the other. If keeping all these numbers straight and consistent across 2 forms sounds like a lot to manage by hand, that's exactly what Virdix is built for. The wizard at Virdix.co walks you through these same income and expense questions in plain language and fills out your FL-150 for you, free during beta. Virdix is a document preparation service, not a law firm, so this is not legal advice, but it can help make sure your income and expense declaration is complete and consistent from the start.